Welcome to the TrotCast Revolution, presented by Diamond Creek Farms, a cut above. I'm Jay Hochstetler, and I am joined by, we didn't mention this last time, breakthrough nominee.
Oh, always Ryan Macedonio. Jay, how you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I'm only a nominee. I didn't win any awards.
Well,
but,
you won the popular vote. You didn't win the electoral. It's fine. It's rigged. It's fine. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's right. It is what it is. Congratulations to Mike Carter and Ray Catola, and we had fun. And we'll be doing more stuff in the future, so that's all that really matters. Awards are, it is what it is, and we move on, right?
Yeah, we're not here for your shiny trophies.
No. It's I'm more important in the reasons why we were nominated versus the actual outcome. So we're gonna continue to do those things and break through stuff. So moving forward, just like we're gonna break through some stuff today. Do we have anything to discuss before we jump right into the topic, Jay?
We just jump into things now. We've been big on that this year.
Yeah. So ready for the topic, Jay?
Absolutely, shoot it.
Okay. So I came up with this fantastic idea for the Breeders' Crown this year. Notice I got my shameless self-promotion hat. So who knows if it's going to be implemented, but it's an idea that I came up with, and I thought, why don't we add more to the Breeders' Crown? Why don't we add way more? Because it's not just harness racing isn't just about the best 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, and older horses. There's plenty of other things that harness racing can have Breeders' Crowns for. One of the ideas in which we're going to expand upon is I think we'll end up calling it the 200-meter dash. So when I told you this idea, Jay, what was your initial thought about a 200-meter dash?
I've seen it done a few times. I've seen quarter of a mile races where it's just kind of whoever can scald the gate as fast as they can, and it's kind of usually on a night where I've seen tracks do extreme racing, or maybe it's a night where there's a special holiday occurring, and they'll do kind of special races like that. So I've only seen it done in a very small sample, but I've always enjoyed them. So I was immediately open to the idea.
This idea does not have horses racing in a 200-meter dash against each other. That's the one thing that we're going to change, because you said, you had maybe 8 horses just quarter mile, just sprint where they're all in a straight line, and it's great for action, but I think that that's a little bit dangerous when to have it. We want this thing repeatable. That was a kind of a show. It's interesting. It's cool, but I don't think that this is repeatable for our types of horses.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
I think the main reason is the danger factor of once you get these horses revved up, I don't think a quarter of a mile actually wears them out enough. So you have these horses going as fast as they can, and now it's really hard to pull them up. And we don't want that, especially pulling up around other horses.
Yeah, and they're basically 10 wide or 9 wide, wherever track you're at. So
yeah. So that's why this idea, we're going to cut it out. So this idea is basically where 200-meter dash is equivalent to an eighth of a mile. So, right? Do I have my math right, Jay? Or is this a 16th of a mile? Yeah, well, whatever it ends up being. It's a 200-meter dash, and basically what you're going to end up having is 8 or 10 or whatever amount of horses we decide on. And these are the things that we're going to hash out throughout the thing. You're going to have horse number 1 goes up, and he's going to start somewhere. Obviously, it depends on the type of track. Meadowlands or a mile track, they're maybe going to start in the final turn. Half-mile track, they're going to start in the backstretch. And one horse goes, and you're going to go around the turn, boop, 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 and you pick up speed, and you hit that eighth of a mile pole. You want to be at top speed, and it's a 200-meter dash. So 200 meters, bada bing, bada boom, you get your time. That'll probably be about 13, 14 seconds, give or take, 12, 13, 14 seconds. And so boom, you're done. And then you pull up, and then 20 seconds later, the second horse, boom, goes. And the third horse, boom, goes. And the fourth horse goes, boom. However many horses we have, and it's constant action. And it's almost like a qualifying lap on a NASCAR event or something like that, where you have constant action and constant times, and you're like, you're looking at the leaderboard, and it's constant action for the fans. What do you think about all that?
I like, and anybody that would say, well, that's, they're not fun to watch, is like, people love to watch, skiing, snowboarding, all stuff like that, where one participant goes at one time. I've always enjoyed that, and it's fun to see. You watch a snowboarder go down the half pipe. It's like, well, is his score going to be enough? I don't know. Like, you're waiting until that last jump. Is he going to hit that? Because if he falls, he's not going to get it. So, in terms of excitement, it's there, in my opinion. And other sports have shown that. Now, I love in terms of it's a different thing. You'd be watching for something different. You're not watching for who's second over and it's coming up. You're just seeing how fast is this horse going, and it's a pure clock thing, which. We've had that happen before at Red Mile. We watch the world record times and everybody's just kind of staring at the clock. So there is a little bit of a precedent for this where people like to watch something in terms of can you just beat the clock and rather worry about beating other horses.
Now I think too. Let's break down because there's a whole bunch of different things. Let's break down the actual action that's going across. Now it's going to take about 15 seconds. Let's say you get the cue. Whether you're the 1 horse or the 10 horse or whatever, you get the cue, right? Now all the horses can be lined up or not lined up, just kind of walking on the infield. Yeah. Remember, all the action is in the grandstand. So the rest of the track means absolutely nothing. So you can have horses on the infield. You can have horses walking, kind of getting ready. So once you get that cue, right, it's probably going to take about 15 seconds for you to get up to speed. And then about 15 seconds for you to compete in the actual event. And then maybe another 10 to 15 seconds by the time you're clear so that we can give the other horse an actual cue to go. So you're talking about 40 seconds per horse, give or take. Now you multiply that over the course of, 10, 12 horses. Now you're getting into 7, 8, 9 minutes of action, constant action. That's what we want. We don't want 2 minutes of action. We're getting 9, 10, 12 minutes of action nonstop. That's exactly what everybody's been yelling and screaming about. We just increased our action 500%.
Now, and the thing that people are like, well, I got to have time to bet and stuff. I was like, listen, this is an idea. You can expand. You can do this depending on the track. We want to do it for like a Breeders' Crown. Is kind of what you originally thought of. Like this should be like an alternate division, basically, right? From what I understood,
that's what it started out as. Yeah.
Yeah, but you could run this every week. You could run this every month. Like it's just something that like people could look forward to. You could see this and go, well, man, I want to go. I really enjoyed that last time. I got to watching, just like 20 straight minutes or 30 straight minutes of horses just going. He says, and I really liked it. I'm going to come every Friday night because I want to watch that. Now, however often you want to do it or how many horses you want to do it, but there is a market for this, and it's a different way to throw your product out there without it being redundant, which is what we kind of need, honestly.
Diamond Creek Farm presents Southwind Frank, a force of nature who tore through the 2-year-old ranks and left a lasting impression on everything in his path.
It's all Southwind Frank, 2.5 lengths in front. Southwind Frank wins the Breeders' Crown.
Southwind Frank is powering past on the outside. Southwind Frank wrapped up in the first Dancer division.
With the wind at your back, there's no limit to how far you can go. Southwind Frank, standing at Diamond Creek Farm.
Well, let's talk about, so we added to the fact that there's constant action, right? Now, and you get way more action than what we normally would get. And we're not saying get rid of traditional racing. We're just saying add this. There's no reason why we couldn't add this. So now let's talk about the actual way that the race would be held. I think that there's 2 actual options you could do it. You can have a traditional 64-man NCAA basketball type tournament where it's actual matchups. So you can say, hey, okay, first round is me versus you, Jay. And I'm going to go and run a sprint. Boom. Bada boom. I'm 13.8 seconds. You're 13.9. I move on to the next round. Here's the best part about this, Jay. You only ran a 200-meter dash. That's it. I think that these horses could come back 4 or 5 or 6 times in a 45-minute period. Imagine having a 45-minute block of these horses just constantly, hey, we're going. Maybe you have 3 rounds and then you allow the horse to go back into the paddock or something like that. But you're not going to put stress on the horses by just having 200-meter dashes. I think that you'd have no problem. Think about it. 1/8 of a mile. They do 8 of these in a constant motion for one race. So there's no reason why we couldn't do, again, 5, 6, 7, 8 throughout, which leads to matchups. So look at how the tournaments are bracketed. I think there's 6 rounds in a traditional NCAA tournament bracket. I think you could easily do that in one given night.
Oh, for sure. You think about it, it would be basically 64 times. So the first round would take a while, which is fine. You have a lot of action and a lot of different horses and plenty of time for the horses to recoup or however you want to do it. So that's not a problem. And then, so that'll take an hour and a half, let's say. But then the next round's 32. So then the first 2 rounds take a lot. But then after that, you have your 16 left horses. And it's exciting. Now you're down to the final ones. And now you get to play the game of, well, which ones are built to keep doing this, and which ones have looked the best so far. The gambling, instead of wondering about how this horse was all week, you already know what he was like, and you can gamble however you want to set up the gambling. But you have a fresh reminder of what these horses are like, and a lot of theories to place towards the next round.
Absolutely. Do you think that they could legitimately? How would you do this NCAA tournament bracket? Would you say, hey, let's go to all the 64 horses there on one night, and we do like the NCAA tournament where let's get them down from 64 to 16? Do you think, because like you said, you'd have essentially 64 horses going, which 40, what do we say, 40 seconds per horse? That's going to take about an hour. Let's say it takes about an hour for the first round to go. So you go, and then you can go back into the paddock waiting for the other horses. And then so now we get to the round of 32. Now you come back. This could be done. Maybe you have the first 3 rounds in one night, and then you come back, like you said, have the final 16 or something like that. Maybe the next night. You're not stressing these horses out at all.
Yeah, I absolutely think you could probably, if it was done very efficiently, you could get this done in 3 hours, which is what I think most sporting events are shooting for, is that 3 hour. You really don't want to go past that 3 hour mark. So really, you put that all, and you're never giving them. There's no downtime. You're constantly able to entertain people, and maybe you want to. And in the time that a horse is prepping, or you're just starting to get him go, you can kind of give some reaction to the last time and a little update on what's coming next and what's that. And you only have one horse, so you can put graphics on the side of the TV to show where the standings are, who's coming up. So you don't have to have as much downtime to explain things, because it's right there on the screen, because you only need to focus on one horse, and it's not going to require a full screen of how you got to show 10 horses.
Do you think that this could be done efficiently in a one night thing, or would you want to split it up over 2 nights?
I think you could really experiment with it. You could try it on one night, and if it doesn't work, oh well, it's one night. And then maybe the next time we run this, and a month later or whatever, we'll have it where we run the first round on one night, and maybe 3 days later or a week later, then we do the rest of the tournament.
Okay, and
if it comes to that,
and you could have betting on this could be exactly. We don't have to create new betting on this. It could be exactly like the NCAA tournament, where remind me, Jay. So isn't the deeper you go in each round? Let's say I pick you to win the whole thing, right? Don't you get like, hey, if you pick Jay to win the first round, you get like 5 points. If you pick Jay to win the second round, you get 10 points. Doesn't it increase? And if you picked Jay to win the whole thing, you get like 100 points, and your total score ends up being right?
Yeah, that's the bracket betting. The way I started looking at this is how Vegas looks at the NCAA tournament. You could have a kind of a spread where if it's a 1 versus 16 matchup, and you say, okay, this horse is against this horse, but you can bet the underdog, but you're allowed a quarter or a half a second.
Okay,
you have that option where now you kind of have an interesting betting matchup where you're saying, maybe that 1 seed, is he going to go? He knows he can beat this horse. Is he going to go completely all out? Does he think he has enough to where he can try and save himself? And also, you can have also kind of like an over-under where let's say foiled again, is he going to go in under 13 and have that bet?
Okay.
And have people bet on that. I think, now you have over-under, you have spreads, you have the entire bracket to bet on. You're going to have a lot of wagering options. It's not just, you can still do head-to-head, but now we've come up with, 4 to 5 different options to actually bet on these things.
So direct head-to-head could be an instant an instant bet. Me versus you. Who are you going to win? Like,
Yeah.
that's an instant bet. You could bet instant over-under of seconds for each horse. You could bet the spread, is what you're saying, right? The how much of a distance between the two horses. What were some of the other bets?
You could do an over-under on a specific horse.
Okay.
So how, is this horse over 13 seconds or under 13
Okay.
seconds? You could do kind of like a parlay where you have to pick 5 matchups in a row or 6 matchups in a row.
Okay, so
which is another common Vegas sports betting thing.
do you think that we would have trouble implementing these Vegas types odds? Like, I don't know the legislation on horse racing bets.
Yeah, I have no idea about the legal ramifications of this, but I mean, people have added in new types of, the Meadowlands just put in a pick 10. So it seems like if you have the willpower, gaming commissions are willing to work with you as long as it's betting on horses.
Okay, let's just eliminate all the things, right? And let's just say you had a win, place, bet, exacta, triple, superfecta. You could still implement those into this 64 type tournament. Forget all the other stuff we were talking about. You can have who's going to win, who's going to place, who's going to show, exacta, triple, superfecta, right? Those are the simplest bets you could in a 64 horse field. How much handle is that going to be? Like, that's going to generate a huge amount of handle just on win, play, show. Have this for the Europe. I mean, they would love this. Astronomical amount of handle.
Yeah, I mean, if you really wanted to, you could do a pick 32 if you wanted to get, like, Craig, you have to pick who are in the top half that are going to move on to the next round.
Okay, yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, no, I like that, a pick 8 or something like that, or pick the final.
Like you have,
I mean,
from the first round, you have to pick the 8 fastest. Like, that's a possibility.
So those are direct bets that we could incorporate into this exact type thing, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't see why not. You can have, we've had a bunch of wagering options here, and it's something different and something I would be willing to try. It's something, you know how fast these horses are, so there's references for this. You know which horses can leave the gate hard and can get out of there, and now you're also going to have a thing where there's some horses who are going to be terrible at this. There's some horses that are only good around other horses, and there's some horses that are great for a short distance. So you're kind of increasing the different varieties of horses you can have. You can have horses that this will be their specialty. This is the only thing they're good at. And they might be just mediocre race horses in a regular format, but now we found a niche for them.
Yeah, I think that this increases the longevity of every horse, realistically, because what you're going to do is you're going to pull some horses out of regular races, and you're going to insert them into this. And I think that if you have an open level type of race versus a regular type of race in this, I think a lot of the open level horses, let's take horses that were competing again in the open pacing division, right? There's a lot of horses that, maybe didn't want to week to week have to do these races, but now you pull them out and put them in this thing. Those are some fast horses all around. Now you're extending their how long they could be an open horse. And then what you're doing is if you can extend the top level, now you can extend how long are you a 15 claimer? How long are you a 4 claimer? And you can actually extend the careers of every horse in this field, because these horses can do sprints when they're 10, 12, 14 years old. I mean, I know Foiled Again is that's why he's the best horse so far ever. The longevity of it, but imagine you take those 4 claimers that are racing in Maine and Monticello and Northfield. Now you put them in this race, they're going to be able to race that another couple more years. It's not going to hurt them as much to race a 200-meter dash versus a mile a race.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not going as fast in a turn, so that's a lot of horses' problems. Is they, the flex on the joints as they're going around a turn at top speed. You're really only doing this in the straightaway, so that's going to be advantageous for them. And there's just some horses they're 4 claimers right now for a mile, but they can flat out scorch for the first quarter that you open them up, and this is where they would be successful at, and they wouldn't just be 4 claimers anymore.
And you're not hitting their threshold of pain or breathing or whatever.
No.
When you do 200 meters, it's a quick sprint for them. again, we could get them to do this 5, 6, 7, 8 times in a given night and really won't stress them out. It's like it's HIIT training, high intensity and interval training. That's what it is.
Yeah, there's plenty of downtime in between each race, so in conditioning wise, they should be fine. I would be maybe the odd horse, but you're not really going to get much of a lactic acid buildup because you're only going for a 200 meters for a horse is nothing. Granted, they're able to hit a top speed, but in terms of actually wearing them down, this is a walk in the park. But it's fun.
And when you're not hitting their like when you said they're not really at full high gear in the entire turn. Let's say it's on a half. You're not hitting full high gear on the half. You're hitting it in the stretch. So there's less chance of them bleeding, less chance of them being in pain because they're not hitting their knees or hitting, trotters hit their hind shins. So you're eliminating their pain, their bleeding, all these things like that because it's a short burst. What's the downfall in this, Jay?
It's different. Okay.
Wait. We've already established when it's different. Forget about it. Let's just go out of it.
It is in fact quite bad since it's different.
Quite bad.
But this is a specialty, and there's nothing. Lots of different sports have specialties. There's you look at snowboarding. They have some people are good at the half pipe. Some are good at racing. Some are good at the massive big air. Why don't we have that? This is an example of that.
Always be Mickey, just toying with the field.
Mickey is motoring home to a magnificent finale.
What a race! Always be Mickey on the outside. Always be Mickey.
Heading down to the line. Always be Mickey in 1:46 world record.
I'd like to talk about the specific, forget about this Breeders' Crown N64 or NCAA 64-man tournament. Let's figure out a way for this to be actually an every week or every race day thing for tracks to implement. Because I think that in order for you to have a Breeders' Crown, you have to establish the best of that type of field. Mm-hmm. So we need to have a regular competition so that we can establish who the best of the best is this, right? I think that's fair enough.
Yeah.
So what if we did this? We all know that right now, 12 horse fields, 14 horse fields, 15 horse fields, those are where people want to bet, right? That's inarguable.
Yeah.
So let's just say that we do a 16 horse race. And I think that this is where we really want to hammer the details. You want to move forward with this, Jay?
Yeah, I'm all on board.
Okay. So let's just say we take 16 horses and we could do one of two things, right? We can have our 16 horses and we do them matchup by matchup, whether it's, I don't like the idea of ranking horses. I like the idea of random draws. So random draws of I draw the 1, you draw the 4, and 1 versus 16 goes, and then we trickle down into it. Or you could just have just open draw. Doesn't matter. The only thing the draw would be when you go is, hey, I drew the 1, so I go first. Hey, I drew the 16, so I go 16th. But you'd go the top 6, you do 16 horses, and then you take the top 8 so that there isn't direct matchups. What do you think of that idea versus direct matchups?
Yeah, this is a more, and even the way I looked at it immediately when you said 16 was, you take 16, you run all 16, so that effectively takes the amount that a race would, between the time after the next race and the warm-ups and all that. So you have this go for, it takes, 16, 17 minutes, and then you have 16 times, and you could take the winners right from there and hold it as one race. Honestly, there you have your superfecta, you have your exacta by taking all the times, and you can have another round of this and have a daily double or whatever, but you can run it, and it's so many variety of ways. Like you said, you can run a tournament elimination, or you can just run one dash for the cash.
Okay, I didn't even think about one dash for the cash, because that would take about 20 minutes for us.
Yeah, it would be a race,
right.
Effectively a race on the card.
Okay, so I like that. So now if we have direct matchups, right? Tournament style. We have these one dash for the cash, which if my job is to show up for one race for one 200-meter dash, couldn't I do that 2-3 times a week?
That's what I'm thinking.
Specifically,
you could run this. Like, if you wanted to do a tournament, you could run it, like, you could run 32 horses the one night, but then you could have the next 16 come back 3 days later, because it's really not, again, the stress level is not high.
Well, what I'm saying is, like, that horse, like, that's 3 or 4 different purses that I could, one dash for the cash, and then I could do that the next night, and then the next night. That's not even a training session for most horses.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of horses train 3 days, 2 days out of whatever they're going to race at, so you wouldn't even hurt your horse population for the like mile races.
Yeah,
like this would be, instead of like, oh, we got to train him at the training center. Like, no, we'll just race him in the 200 meter, and then he'll be ready for his mile race on Sunday, and he raced on Thursday or whatever.
Yeah, have your regular race on Saturday, and have these one dash for the cash on Tuesday, Wednesday. Like, that's nothing.
Yeah, we're training your horse for you.
We're training your horse.
You should pay us.
So now you get 2 chances at a purse money. I mean, for the same horse, essentially.
Yeah.
Now
precisely.
that would be really big for horses and tracks that have people stabled on the grounds, because now let's say you give me the opportunity to race in a dash for the cash 2 times a week. Let's say like Hoosier Park. Let's take Hoosier Park. They race Tuesday through Saturday, right? I think.
Yeah.
So let's say Tuesday and Thursday are dash for the cash nights, and you have guys that I'm going to take my horse Tuesday for the dash for the cash, Thursday, and then a regular race on Saturday. That's not anything different from their regular training, normal training regimen.
Exactly.
And so you really didn't have to ship that far, because you're probably on the grounds, or a lot of those training centers are a couple,
very
10
close,
minutes, whatever. So now you didn't stress your horse out by shipping. You didn't stress your horse out by doing anything other than his training regimen. And you just gave him 3 chances to win purse money. That people are going to bet this, because you're giving them a huge amount of options, betting options, 16 horses.
Yeah, and you never have to. There's never like, oh, we'll throw out the 9 horse because he's got the outside and he has no chance this week. No, everybody is going to be right along the pylons going at it. So, as long as the horses are well classified or grouped however they should be, it's every wagering option is possible. You don't have to toss any horses out.
Now let's go back to the kind of tournament style, but not matchups, where we have 16 horses and we eliminate 8, right? So now you come back instantly. I think you could keep the horses right on the track.
I think so. Yeah, effectively. I mean, maybe you want to not have, actually on the big tracks this would be fine.
Right.
For that many horses.
Yeah. On the big tracks, I think that this would be fine, because you could just have them again walking around in the backstretch. We're only talking about the front stretch here, that eighth of a mile. Anything else, they could be on the infield, even on a half-mile track. Most of the infields are okay. The backstretch is fine. You could have the trainers essentially out on the backstretch.
Able to hold them in case they get riled up or anything.
Yeah, walking the horses. I don't think that safety would be an issue if you have 16 horses out on the track. And maybe you don't have 16. You have the first 8 go, and maybe the 9 horse goes out after the 4 horse goes. Something like that. Where, you could figure it out, the safety issues. But 16 run, 8 get eliminated. Now those horses can keep staying on the track, and so that's 1 round. Now we eliminate 8 to 4, and then we eliminate 4 to 2, and then we eliminate 2 to 1. So that's 4. That's 4 heats that these horses would have to go, and it would probably take about an hour, give or take. I think.
I would say so. Yeah.
So now you could have, if we can get all these different types of Vegas style bets to throw in there over that course of an hour, you can have instant bets. Hey, who's going to make, like you said, the top, it could be race 1 would be, pick the top 8 or in the first dash, that could be separate exacta or triple or whatever. So there's all these types of bets that you can have instant through each round, or overall to pick the overall winner.
Now, I know I'm already picturing, as soon as we post this, that someone is going to immediately comment and give me a legislative reason why all these bets can't happen. But I would never let a current fact get in the way of a good idea for the future. So to tell me like, oh, it can't happen, it's like, well, you know what? Maybe we need to work together, work with the gaming commissions to actually make this a possibility. So if anyone's going to come with that immediately, stop. Like, this is a legitimately possible idea with the actual want to do it, because it's still betting on horse racing. It's just we're modifying our parimutuel bets. It's still parimutuel wagering. You're only wagering against everybody else.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's why if we keep the actual bets, like a win bet, right, is you're trying to pick the winner of the race. Well, how do we define a race? A race, we've just defined what a race is. We can have a race is we take these 16 horses and we have a race off. That's one race. So you're betting on who is going to win that race. The winner of the race is the horse with the fastest 200-meter dash. So I don't see any problem with just moving as long as we define what a race is clearly, define what the bet is. It's all parimutuel wagering. We already have this stuff. We're not talking about over-unders and all that stuff. We could incorporate that later on.
Yeah, later, that would obviously be a work in progress because the current betting structure is not set up for that. But that's how deep you could go with this idea. You could take, like, yes, here's what we have right now, but look how big we could actually make this. And honestly, with the way that sports betting is expanding across the country, it would only be a matter of time where this wouldn't even be a problem getting legislatively done.
I think that, yeah, universally, most states and tracks have accepted some form of gambling, whether it's internet or local or, actual gambling. So if you're presenting a good idea and you work with people, you're just establishing communication and establishing a good idea. Who wouldn't want this other than Atlantic City, obviously?
Yeah, and that's, they're going to fight whatever you do in terms of expanding gambling. That's not them. So that's just what you're going to have to deal with.
Why couldn't this be accepted? Because do you think that this would handle more than a traditional race? I'm not talking about a major stakes race. I'm not talking about things like that. I'm talking about a Tuesday night at any racetrack. Why wouldn't this be a better or similar option and get the same results as a traditional race?
The only way I can see, like, initially, I guarantee you the first few times, like, outside of maybe the novelty of the first time getting a lot of traction, some bettors would be a little wary of it just because they're not used to it, and they have their systems, they have the things that they like to bet. So, Grant, maybe the first few times you're not as successful as what you had hoped for. But again, it's about staying the course and keeping on with an idea and giving it time to develop and people to get used to it and enjoy it.
Well, I always hear from bettors that they want just more options. The reason why they don't like half-mile track racing is because not every horse has a chance. They feel that the 6, 7, and 8 posts are handicapped in a negative way, and just the fact there's not enough betting options. I mean, the reason why the Yonkers stuff has been successful is because you've essentially given the 8 posts a little bit more of an advantage to win, or a little bit more of a percentage to win, and you're getting more options. So your 1 to 9 shots don't become 1 to 9 shots with 12 horses in a field. So if you have 16 betting interests, I mean, like, how can you, and they all have the same exact chance to win? Doesn't matter how they draw. Maybe the 16 horse has a little bit better of an advantage because he knows all the times, but even that, you're still, it's so hard to, like, judge that slim amount of time. Like, guys are just going to be going all out regardless. Right, yeah.
It's going to be...
absolutely. You're not going to be pulling
You don't want to take the chance of being a fifth of a second too slow. Like, that's just not something you're going to be able to judge.
Sure, we're talking 13, 14 seconds here, so you're not really going to be able to look at a 16th of a mile and be like, okay, we did that in 6.8 seconds. That's 13 point... you're not going to be able to do the math and decide to pull up or not.
You're pretty much guaranteed to get an honest effort every single time because there's not going to be the incentive to, like, well, I'm just going to have to suck back along here because I have the outside post and I don't want to gut my horse. Like, no, everybody gets the same shot. You're right along the post and everybody's got to go like hell because that the timing that we're talking about, you basically have to, go balls to the wall to get this done.
So do you want to recap everything that we just did, Jay? I mean, like, is there anything else that we need to kind of add upon? And obviously we always like input from everybody. So what do you think?
Yeah. If we're missing something, by all means, give at it. But I just really think the way it can help certain horses out, certain horses that are only good at this, certain horses that are struggling with turns or don't need the mile bleeding thing. There's a lot of like things that would actually help certain horses for this thing. You have a ton of different options. You can make 16 horse races, and you can run it where you can have specialty horses and make this into a entire new class of racing, which would be really cool to see on a Breeders' Crown night.
And I think the most important thing is we're talking about the action. We're talking about constant action. I think it's when it's quick. You're not really there's no downtime because it's quick, and you could work out the exact specifics and have a director on the track or whatever to make sure that the horses are safe and everything goes. You can get this very efficient and very fast and have. I mean, like. I'm sure you've been to a race event, right? Like a NASCAR or sprint car or one of these, right?
Yeah.
So when they have these lap qualifiers, when that car hits the finish line and he hits the backstretch, right? The other car's already in the front stretch. So there's cars on the opposite part of the track. So there's no reason why you can't just have constant flow and constant action. Like there is no downtime here. We're always talking about, hey, we race for 2 minutes and then there's 20 minutes of downtime and because nobody watches the post braids and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, here's action. This is what people want. I did think of just one thing though, that may not go so well, and it's going to affect the small area and it's going to affect the drivers.
Will it though?
Well, if you have 16 horses out on the track, you have 16 drivers.
Yeah, I guess so.
So therefore, drivers can't capitalize on a number of mounts. That's about it. That's the only negative I could think of. Actually,
this is me playing the world's smallest violin. Like more drivers will get to have a chance at doing something. Like, oh my gosh, the same 5 guys won't get the same all the opportunities. I'm devastated.
Well, and
truly,
I think it would
truly hard.
I think it would be interesting because now you may have more people, like you said, with opportunities. Because half the reason why I stopped driving was because I couldn't see and it was dangerous. Like I had to focus all my energy on seeing. And that, instead of driving. So I was late on a couple of moves and I hesitated because I couldn't see, so those are things that the danger is not really there when you're having this type of race, if you want to call it that. There isn't close quarters. So it's kind of actually a little bit better. Maybe trainers can jump in the bike and you can have different types of people jumping in the bike. I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of drivers that they're at smaller tracks. They don't get the same opportunities, but it's not necessarily that maybe they're not good in a race environment, but they can get a ton out of a horse. They know how to make a horse go fast. There's certain guys that just have that ability, and sometimes their weaknesses are in other areas. But there's a lot of guys I've known that are kind of at smaller tracks. And they don't get a lot of drives, but man, they know how to make a horse leave the gate, and they know how to make a horse try their hardest.
Sure. I don't think that we should have a gate in this. I think it should all be natural.
No. Yeah, but I'm saying that in kind of a current term where there's certain people that know how to make a horse go fast for the first quarter of the mile. And
I just thought of, I'm trying to come up with little details, but I don't think we need a gate for this. I think it could just be instant,
It would slow it down.
I think it would slow it down a little bit, and you don't need the gate. I think part of the lore of this is the natural instinct of the horse. Yeah. And you get to see the horse in all its stride and all its glory. And we could have better image quality. We could zoom in on these horses. And you don't have to, you're only talking about the front part of the stretch where the cameras are the best quality. So you can have all these different angles and camera feeds and things like that to showcase the real stride and beauty of the animal.
Yeah, I mean, you could have a guy basically on the track to the side where he's getting down the stretch shot of him coming at him, which would be really cool to see.
You could install a zip line like they have it at Vincennes, where you can have it high or low and have the actual following the horse. So you get that. You can have all these different cameras and make the product look amazing. Because you don't have to zoom in all the way to the corner where, people can't see the action. The action's right in front of you.
Yeah. I think this would solve a lot of the issues in terms of the entertainment side of the business that I constantly hear in terms of it's too slow and you can't see anything. That's a constant gripe.
Thank you. We fixed harness racing. How about that, Jay?
Yes, our check should be in the mail, so we appreciate all your contributions.
Yeah. So is there anything else? We'll put a bow on this.
I think we
all right.
got
So
it.
I'm Ryan Macedonio. You find me. Everything is at TrotCast. Visit TrotCast.com. Make sure you go back and listen to all the other Revolution episodes. Share everything on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Make sure you subscribe to everything on YouTube, all that funny stuff. I think that's it. Take it away, Jay.
All right, I'm Jay Hochstetler. You can find me on Twitter at JD Harness. Thanks for listening and join the revolution.